Are we in a recession? You probably hear words like recession and inflation thrown around. Do you know what they mean? Why or how it happened? In about 2 to 3 minutes, I will explain. And go back in history to when and how people managed to get out of it. Before we get started, if you haven't done so, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. First, let's look at the definition of recession and inflation. A recession is a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in GDP in 2 successive quarters. What is GDP, you ask? GDP is gross domestic product, is a monetary measure of the market value of all the final goods and services produced and sold in a specific time period by countries. Inflation is the rate of increase in prices over a given period of time, typically a broad measure, such as the overall increase in prices or the increase in the cost of living in a country. In simpler terms, when the economy becomes less active, prices for goods go down. People lose their jobs, so unemployment increases. Inflation and interest rates go down. Let's take a trip down memory lane. We'll start in the 19th century. Let's talk about the biggest recessions the U.S. ever faced. The Great Depression began in 1929 and ended in 1939. Several factors combined to create the Great Depression. The Fed raised interest rates in the spring of 1928 and continued despite the recession. The 1929 stock market crash destroyed businesses and life savings. A 10-year drought in the Midwest created the Dust Bowl that devastated farmers. Over the next several years, consumer spending and investment dropped, causing steep declines in industrial output and employment as failing companies laid off workers. How did families survive, you wonder? Many families strive for self-sufficiency by keeping small kitchen gardens with vegetables and herbs. Some towns and cities allowed for the conversion of vacant lots into community thrift gardens where residents could grow food. So here's how the government got the country out of it. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, aka FDR, came up with the New Deal. The New Deal was a series of programs such as the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, the Civil Works Administration, CWA, the Farm Security Administration, FSA, the National Industrial Recovery Act of 1933, NIRA, and the Social Security Administration, SSA. Roosevelt established to stimulate the economy and offered home-buying aid for Americans, but only white Americans. That is another story. I'm not a storyteller. Wait. Maybe I am. Let's focus. The Federal Housing Administration, operated through the New Deal's National Housing Act of 1934, promoted homeownership by providing federal backing of loans, guaranteeing mortgages. This is why now all Americans can benefit from the FHA loan and many more. Now, the most recent recession we are all familiar with. No, not the one caused by the COVID-19. The housing bubble in 2008. The Great Recession refers to the economic downturn from 2007 to 2009 after the bursting of the U.S. housing bubble and the global financial crisis. Again, during that time people lose their job, unemployment rises, GDP gross domestic product fell by 4.3%. Do you see the pattern? By October 2008, Congress approved a $700 billion bank bailout, now known as the Troubled Asset Relief Program. By February 2009, President Obama proposed the $787 billion economic stimulus package, which helped avert a global depression. Back to our earlier question. Are we in a recession? Recession could be individually affected, nationally, or globally. But for the purpose of this video, ask yourself these questions. Do you see a steady rise in job losses and a surge in unemployment? Do you see a decline in real GDP, income, industrial production, and wholesale/retail sales? If you answer yes to these questions, then most likely you are in a recession. For more videos like this one and many more, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you.